Welcome to What's New in the Power Platform and Dynamics 365. So we started this off as a monthly thing. Last month we were bringing you news from MBAS back in May, but today we're going to sort of spend an hour here to introduce you to what's all the cool new stuff with the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 from June. So just a bit about ourselves. I see some familiar names here. Some of you might be new. So my name is Rashona. I'm one of the Power Platform trainers here at Barhead. Part of my role is to put out content there about the Power Platform and what the capabilities are. So we run like sessions like this, our lunch and learns, and like full day trainings, like app in a day, dashboard in a day, to show you what you're able to do with the platform and hopefully get you excited about it so you want to start using it, as excited as we are about it as well. And Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome along. My name is Lisa Crosby. I am the technology evangelist here at Barhead Solutions. I get to look at some of the latest and greatest technology, and my job is to make sure that we are connecting that technology with how it can be used to solve real business problems for you. So as Rashona said, our unit here, we run a whole lot of free training, which we know many of you have been along to. We're starting to bring that in-house to organisations, lots more of this what's new stuff so that we make sure that we keep you on top of that. I'm also what's called a Microsoft Business Applications MVP, which is an award for people who do this kind of stuff in the community. So there's a huge community around Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, people learning, sharing together, and I'm very active in that community. Basically means I do this stuff for fun in my spare time. So if you're out and about in any of those community forums and so on, you'll find me there as well as here.
All right, nice. And feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or follow our Barhead LinkedIn page. They're very active on it. We like to post stuff. Sometimes when you come along to our training sessions, people post like pictures of their apps and things like that. So we're always open to like that sort of sharing if you want to connect with us there.
And we do a lot of posting on what's new too. So by virtue of you being here today, if you're interested in what's new, that's a great way to keep up there as well.
And just a bit about us. So we are from Barhead Solutions. We are a born-in-the-cloud consultancy. We specialize in Microsoft products. We work very closely with Microsoft on this stuff. So they have the engineers who build the solutions. We deliver all the services around it. So your training, your configuration to really make it a success. So if you see anything here today that you're pretty keen on, you want to explore how it might be able to help you in your organization, definitely reach out to us and we'll be able to see where we can go from there. And I'll just also point out that we are actually part of Microsoft's inner circle. This means that we are in the top 1% of all of their business application partners. So we work very closely with them on this stuff. We are based in a few different places, so most of us are working remotely at the moment, but we're based in Sydney. I'm from Sydney today. We have an office in Brisbane. Lisa's from Melbourne, and we also have a team based in Manila. So I think in the chat there, Lisa has just popped a comment. So if you do have any questions along the way, feel free to pop it in the Teams chat and we'll be able to get to them from there. So what we're going to be talking about today, this is just the flow of each product and what new features we're going to be talking about. So we'll take you through what's new with Dynamics 365, Customer Insights, Power Platform and Teams, which is a very sort of hot topic at the moment, Power Automate, Virtual Agents, Power BI, and then lastly, we'll take you through Power Apps. So let's get stuck into it. Let's get started with Dynamics 365 sales. My words are all over the place today.
Excellent. So yes, please pop any questions or comments in the chat here, and we're actually interested at the end of this session, via the chat, or let us know afterwards what your highlights are, because we're going through, as Rashona showed you there, quite a broad range of things in the platform, and by no means is this every last detail of everything that's new. There's a heap of things going on, but we're selecting out the highlights that we think are of most interest, and what we'll do is come back at the end and sort of talk about our highlights of the highlights. So make a note of anything here, And if you want to kind of let us know what your highlight is by the end of this session, it's really interesting for us to hear that from you. So I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about Dynamics 365 sales, just by way of introduction. We've got two big platform conversations here. One is around Dynamics 365, and one is around the Power Platform. They do actually come together and are part of that whole better together story. But if you're coming from the Power Apps or Power Platform side and you haven't come across Dynamics 365 before, this is the Dynamics 365 sales component, is the customer relationship management component of the platform, and it's really come a very long way from where it was even a few years ago. So let's have a look at some of the features that we've got coming through there. One of the first big things is around is this thing called a sales accelerator. I'm just going to step back a little bit, actually, because when I say it's the customer relationship management part of the platform, certainly it does all of the basics that you would expect from that, the essentials really. You're tracking a sales pipeline, you're going from lead to opportunity, managing your accounts, managing your contacts, all of those things. This goes head to head with Salesforce in every way now. So what we're seeing in the current release is a lot of new capability being added to Dynamics 365 Sales through an add-on capability called Sales Insights. So what this is doing is adding intelligence and leveraging all of the AI in the platform so that you are actually working with, I'm calling it like an intelligent CRM, rather than just data entry of accounts and contacts. We're starting to see a lot of really new and exciting features coming through that can reduce manual data entry. So I wanted to take you through some of those now. So the first thing we're seeing is this thing called a sales accelerator. If you joined us for the last What's New, I mentioned this one briefly, but at the Microsoft Build conference just in the last month, we got our first preview of this. So the idea of the sales accelerator is around automating. This is particularly useful for an internal sales team where you've got people who need to, it's not like a high relationship sales tool. This is more about people who need to work through high volume, low relationship type sales scenarios in order to automate and make that more efficient. So let's have a look at, we've got a little click demo here just as a first preview to get a sense of what it's like. So what we see here on the screen is on the left-hand side a list of tasks that are a list of work tasks. So it's automating that and providing the sellers using AI to suggest the next tasks that should come through. And when we click on one of those tasks, what we actually get is this, context of the customer and a thing in the middle there that's giving you the up next suggestions. So this is based on a sequence of events that we have determined as the sales manager to say, here's a sequence that we want you to work through. That might be sending an email or making a phone call or whatever it is. And then what we can do is go through and click on each of those. So the seller is sort of being guided by this. They can click on each of these things, log the call, log an email, do all of those things, and it will actually guide them through and constantly suggest what should be the next action that they should take. So you'll see there we cleared away the first contact there. We've done the suggested task, and then it pops up on the My Work side on the left-hand side to say the next customer is Nick. Neron Pick. I'm going to say Nick there. The next customer is there. The suggested action based on the sequence of events is to send an email. It's actually picking up an email template, so we don't even need to type that. And we're going through and following that click path and doing that, sending that email out. It's all tracked against the timeline. So what's really going on here is this automation efficiency of these tasks so that you don't have to sort of, sit down and figure the things out. Someone can actually sit down and actually just work through this guided sequence and guided series of tasks. So as I said, very, very way of simplifying and automating efforts in a sales scenario, which is a very high velocity, low relationship kind of sales scenario. So let's have a look at the next feature, which kind of goes to the other end of the spectrum, which is more about the high relationship selling. So this one is a feature called Premium Auto Capture. We've had auto capture for a little while already in the platform, which is the idea that in the timeline, so we're looking at a Dynamics 365 screen here, and in the timeline it will show up to say, you should track this email. So where we've got this lovely synergy, this lovely kind of everything's on the same platform with Office 365 and Dynamics 365, 365 together, Dynamics 365 is able to pick up with this auto capture feature and say, hey, there's an email that's related to this contact, or there's an email that's related to this opportunity. Perhaps you should track that because it's all behind the scenes sitting on the same platform. So what we're getting with the premium auto capture feature then is something a little bit more than that. So rather than just capturing the emails, it's actually now capturing that and offering suggested activities. So if you see in the top part of the timeline there, we've got these little light globes with things popping off them. So it's actually going in and getting information from those activities and suggesting to the seller, here are some things that you should do next. And it's also able to suggest new contacts. So what we're seeing is that if you're getting contacts who are mentioned in emails or mentioned in captured activities, the system will actually suggest to you this is a suggested contact, and there's another view in the system that says create contacts. So what we're really after here is for the sellers who work on high relationship sales. They don't want to be sitting in front of their systems all the time doing this manual data entry. And we know that getting capture of activities and engagements that the sellers are involved in is actually a really important part of good customer relationship management and getting that 360-degree view of the customer. So these tools are really designed to make that process streamlined and, again, automate. The suggestions are right there. They just have to click through rather than having to do that manual linking, manual tracking, manual data entry. So a couple of tools there, one for the, with the sales accelerator for the in-house sellers working on a very kind of low touch type selling, this one more for that relationship selling. But in both cases, this trend of seeing it very easy to auto create activities and get that information all in the system. The other thing we've got in here is an enhanced calendar experience. So the other part we're seeing in the platform is enhanced UI features all the time. With the Power Apps component framework, we can actually create any user interface component that we want. And we're also seeing some new things come into the platform as standard. So the calendar control has been there for a little while. It's been recently enhanced. So again, instead of viewing your activities now in the customer relationship management system as just a list of records, you can actually now see them, work with them, and manage them in this calendar view, which certainly makes it a more intuitive and easier experience, because most people are thinking in terms of a calendar for things like appointments and tasks rather than a list of records. So much enhanced experience there. The other thing we've got within the Dynamics 365 world is a tighter integration now between LinkedIn Sales Navigator and Dynamics 365. So a new feature just released recently is the ability now to create contacts directly from LinkedIn. So what we've got is the ability to, from the LinkedIn, now you do need a Sales Navigator license for this. This is not part of the standard LinkedIn feature, but if you're logged in and you're creating lists of contacts of people that you want to work with, we can save that contact and click this button here that says Add to CRM. So there's a little bit of just connecting these two systems behind the scenes, which is a sign-in process. You don't need to build in an integration or anything. So we click Add to CRM, and then what happens is we get a form that pops up and we enter the data. And then if we have a look at the next screen here, you'll see that it will land inside Dynamics 365. And then we've got that link back. So this one has existed for a while, the iframe panels inside Dynamics 365 to work back with LinkedIn. So we're getting that tighter integration there. You can see there you can track in-mail messages, and so now this new thing is the ability to create contacts directly from Sales Navigator and have them come through into Dynamics 365, which I know is something that people have asked for a lot. So I'm super excited to see that one coming through as a real feature now. All right, now Customer Insights is also part of the Dynamics 365 platform, but this is a bit of a different kettle of fish. If you haven't seen Customer Insights before, Customer Insights is the part of the platform that allows you to get a 360-degree view of the customer from various data sources. So the idea here is that if you've got customer data all over the place, you might have a loyalty system, and you've got your CRM system, and you've got a transaction and behavioral and all sorts of different data in all sorts of siloed systems, and you don't have any unique key, you don't have any unique ID across these systems. This is part of the platform that will allow you to bring those things together. Let's just have a look at, I've got a screenshot here of what this looks like, and certainly if you're interested in more information around customer insights, let us know, because we do run some sessions on this as well. But the new feature here in customer insights is that we're getting real-time data ingestion. So when this product was first launched, the cycle for updating that customer information, so you imagine you've got customer data in all of these various places, and it's syncing together to create a unique customer profile. So we've got this single timeline view of everything that's going on. We can enrich that with data from third-party sources, from the Microsoft Graph, all sorts of things there, and then use that in our Power Apps, use that in our CRM systems. But what we've got now new with this is the ability to have this real-time data ingestion, real-time data update. So if you're working in a scenario where it matters that you want to have an instantly updated customer profile when you're dealing with that customer, that's now a feature available within the customer insights part of the platform. So that's a really exciting development, and something that a lot of people were very keen to see in order to get going with this. So if you're interested in more about that, it's a very brief part of our what's new today, but certainly let us know, and we do have some support for running training and sessions and things on customer insights, proof of concepts, and so on, if that's something that you're interested in. All right, that's it for our Dynamics 365 session. So let's move on to Power Platform and Teams, and this is one of the things that I'm probably the most excited about actually at the moment, because the way that our ways of working has changed in recent months is that, you know, the take up of Teams has just been absolutely enormous. The take up of Power Apps already was enormous and has just gone through the roof. So these two technologies together now are, unsurprisingly, a lot of the roadmap items around these things basically got rethought in the last couple of months, because there's a really good opportunity here for these two platforms to work together. And the combination of Power Platform and Teams is actually about being able to extend Teams. So what we need to think of is that Microsoft Teams is actually an application platform. It's more than just a collaboration platform. So you might be using it, most people are using it for meetings, chat, those kinds of things, collaborate on your documents and so on. But it's actually increasingly now becoming the surface area where we all work. Not quite an operating system, but getting on for that, where you log in at the start of the day, this is where you go. And you've always been able to add apps into Teams. So at one end of the spectrum, you can just grab a third-party app that's already been built and add it in there. So things like SurveyMonkey and so on, you'll see on the screen there. At the other end, you can customize and build highly custom apps with code and bring them in here. But what we've got in the combination of the Teams and Power Platform story is the ability to get apps built that are customized for your users, but without having to go down a really expensive long-term code development path, because the Power Platform is all about enabling high velocity, low code development, and you can now create all of those things in Teams. So the investment, and this has just been announced in the last few weeks, around Teams and Power Platform comes in two buckets, I guess. The first thing is about creating more powerful tools for Teams. And I'm going to take you through each of the components of those and an example of something that we've built as well that makes it possible to do more with Teams. It increases the breadth of applications that are available by bringing Power Platform into Teams. And the other part that's the really important part is tightening that integration. So we start to be able to get a one-click experience. So let's have a look at what that is going to look like in Power Apps. Because this idea now of being able to say, here I am in my Power Apps, I can just go add to Teams and click add, and it will be in there. So what we're seeing here is the ability to build a Power App. So the example here is something like an inventory processing. You might have an onboarding app, whatever your Power App is, but it can be sitting there in Teams where the users are working. So it's great that we can have mobile apps, and sometimes mobile apps are the way to go, but other times people are actually sitting in front of their computers, sitting in front of their laptops and so on. And this is something on the screen here that is created as a tablet app, but it's actually sitting inside Teams as a beautiful kind of usable canvas in here, and you can click on those buttons and run this app exactly the same way you would on a tablet device, but it's just housed exactly where people are already working. They don't have to go away and say, oh, I'll find another app, it's on my on my device, where is that? It's in Teams, it's embedded in Teams exactly where people were working. So what we're seeing here is the ability to get to that stage with a one click. At the moment, it's a bit of an import-export kind of scenario, but that one click, just bang, add to Teams that we saw going on there. We're also seeing on the other parts of the Power Platform with Teams some great things coming through. So again, with Teams and Power Automate. So Power Automate is the tool that allows us to have this ability to automate our workflows and processes across different systems, is that we're starting to get some good triggers and things coming through. So what we'll see is new triggers and actions built specifically for Teams. So there's a Teams connector in there, and that's going to be, increased in terms of capability of what it can do. It's going to allow things like automated at mentioning of people and custom message extensions. And we're also going to have new templates in there. So you'll see the option there within Flow to say create from template. So Microsoft is going to be providing within Power Automate some great templates, a standard kind of business process flows and things that people would want to be using inside Teams. So that makes it really super easy to just grab that and deploy it, and off you go. So lots of things coming there which will allow you to do those kinds of automations directly within Teams. We've also got with the Power Virtual Agents. So Power Virtual Agents is the part of the platform, we're going to talk about this a little bit later down the agenda there, that allows you to create a chatbot with no code, and you can embed that chatbot in Teams. So one of the channels that you can publish your chatbot, typically people think about chatbots as you put it on a website for your customers, and you can absolutely do that with that technology, but you can also publish it to Teams, which means you've basically got an internal bot, and the bot can go out and do things for you. It can reach into your other systems, check things for you, all those kinds of things. So having it in Teams means you've got this internal bot. So again, at the moment, it's a few clunky steps to get your Power Virtual Agent in Teams, but we're going to see a nice kind of easy, add to Teams experience going on there. So that idea of considering internal chatbot scenarios becomes even easier to deploy with this new announcement here as well. So then Power BI, how could I forget Power BI? Nearly forgot. Teams and Power BI. So a couple of new things here as well. What we've got is the ability within your Power BI dashboard to click, there'll be a new share to Teams button. So you're in Power BI here, share to Teams, and you can just add that to Teams, so from the Power BI side. And the other thing which is super cool is the ability to add a particular report. So you can just click on that particular report and add it into a chat, or add it into a thread here, and you'll see there that the preview is giving you like a nice rich visualization of what that looks like. So again, from the Power BI side, really easy to be sharing stuff within Teams. So you can see from all of that, this idea of Teams as a workspace, Teams as an application platform, is really starting to come through as a really important part of what we do with Power Platform, working with these apps in the system where we're already working every day.
Just a question here.
Yeah.
So do you know when this will be going live? So all the
there hasn't been an exact date yet. It's kind of in the June-July timeframe. I am watching like a hawk to see these things going. So this stuff was all announced as
someone's already seen the Power BI thing in Teams.
Oh, okay, right. So they won't all necessarily go live on the same day. So that's awesome if you've seen the Power BI thing. The Power Virtual Agents is the one I'm watching the most closely, because that's going to be an awesome experience to bring that in. So this was all announced at Microsoft Build, which was about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. I've lost track slightly, and they were saying June, July for most of this stuff. So we will certainly post about it once we've got it, but I haven't got exact dates. They tend not to release exact dates. You'll just get a blog post that'll go bang, this is live, and they'll give you a month. So this is all around in the next 6 weeks, I would say, sort of June, July timeframe. But there's been no kind of specific release dates on those things yet. All right, so let's have a quick look before we move on to the other parts of the platform here at something that we've done within this Power Platform and Team story. So I said at the start, this whole Power Platform and Team story is very much out of the way the world is right now. We're seeing growth in both of these things. And again, if this is something that you're interested in, please ping us and we can arrange a proper demo of this. But we've built a workforce management app, and this is leveraging off, Power Platform and Teams. So the idea here is that the employees have an app that allows them to book into anything. So you can book into your workspaces, you can book into to say I'm going to be working from home, booking into common areas, meeting rooms, desks, all of those kinds of things. And the idea then is that we've got full track and traceability on everything. So as workplaces are starting to go back into new normal mode, the need to kind of look after staff and occupational health and safety and make it a safe workplace for people to come back to. The idea here is that you can add in whatever your building and facilities and so on look like. It's all configured, ready to add that stuff. Employees can make bookings, manage their bookings, check in, check out, and then you've got full data stored, traceability of everything that's gone on there. And if you do need to have an incident, if you do need to, an incident comes up, you can actually track back and see who else might be affected by that. You can also use it for scheduling things if you need like deep cleaning around certain areas after they've been used and so on. So helps with all of that compliance and occupational health and safety for people coming back into the office to work that. And we're working here with both the common data service and the sort of human capital management system of different organizations to make sure you've got absolute security and control over the data. So all of that is built in with the platform. But if we go ahead to the next shot here, I've got a couple of examples of how this is being used in Teams. Just skip ahead one more for me, Roshona, there. So you can see this is another example of that app being used in Teams. So we looked before at that sort of beautiful app in there, add to Teams. So the idea here is that we've got an app which I might use on my device to book in for things, but if I'm already in Teams, I can just go in here and have that exact same experience of making my bookings and checking my bookings or whatever it is there. And then, as I said before, the idea of having a chatbot inside Teams is also enabled because we can go in here and just do automated check-in and check-out of those things directly in there. So that idea of we're leveraging the platform, we're leveraging the ability to work directly in Teams as well is becoming a really exciting story to watch. So watch this space, because I reckon every time we do one of these What's News, there's going to be a What's New in Power Platform and Teams update of some kind. I know there's a lot of investment going into making these things work together. So more to come there, I'm quite sure.
Yeah, the workforce management app is pretty exciting. Looking forward to see what we do with that.
You've just been working with a demo of that, haven't you?
Yeah, I actually just was.
So yeah, if anyone would like to see a full demo of that, please let us know.
It's pretty cool.
We can help you with that. Yeah. All right, over to you, Roshona.
All right, so now we're just going to go into a bit more about the Power Platform and what we have there. So let's kick off with Power Automate. Last month, we introduced you to the robotic process automation, so the RPA capabilities that were new to Power Automate. So what this means is we can integrate and automate with systems that don't have an API. So on all that analog data and those legacy applications that we use, they can now be brought into our flows. It's just using a recorder on our screen to track the steps that we're taking in order to do this. This was a pretty game-changing feature. So it meant that we can, with Power Automate, we can get really the full package. We're combining things like our automated flows, our instant flows, business process flows. We can now also bring in UI flows into this mix, so we can touch into or tap into our legacy applications that are there. So following this, Microsoft made the announcement that they have acquired Softomotive. RPA is one of the fastest growing software segments, according to Gartner. And this acquisition, it indicates a big investment from Microsoft in this space. A bit about them. So since 2005, Softomotive have been part of the robotic process automation scene as the creators of Win Automation, if you're familiar with that. This move by Microsoft is to further democratize RPA by enabling everyone to automate their manual business processes and enable connectivity to new apps and new services there. So what this means, and some of the things that we have to look forward to are, first of all, we have more choices for creating workflows now in Power Automate. So with low code, you can build your RPA bots with the existing browser-based authoring app or through a new desktop app that's there with Win automation. There's also the expansion of existing desktop automation experiences by bringing in Softomotive's set of connectors and applications. So we're getting SAP, Java, Citrix. There's some of the examples here. And another point is that we can execute multiple workflows in parallel and also on the same machine to improve the efficiency of your RPA bots. And one other thing here on the topic of RPA, we can now also automate Microsoft Remote Desktop with UI flows using image recognition. This is a feature currently in preview, which makes it possible to record and play back automations on your remote desktop sessions, all without the need to install additional software on a remote computer. And I'm just going to hand back over to Lisa. She'll take us through what's new with Power Virtual Agents.
Thanks, Roshona. So as I mentioned earlier, Power Virtual Agents is the part of the platform that's relatively new in its own right, really. It was only released in December 2019 that allows you to create chatbots with no code. And we've seen two things released in the last few weeks that are super important to how Power Virtual Agents works. First one, which is the most anticipated, long-awaited feature, is the ability to export and import bots. So this really now puts Power Virtual Agents as something that can be deployed in an enterprise scenario. We've got a full, good application lifecycle management story here. So what this means is that you've been able to build your bots with no code, but you couldn't easily move them around. So what this allows you to do is to export and import. So if you're working across development test, user acceptance testing, production kind of lifecycle management, you're able to move your bot around between those different environments now. So super important feature that has just been enabled in preview. So that's it's going to make Power Virtual Agents even better to work with. And the other thing we've seen in Power Virtual Agents that's just been released in the last few weeks is the ability to reuse variables. So this is also known as global variables. So the idea of variables in Power Virtual Agents is that it can store information that comes from a user response and use it somewhere else in the conversation. So it used to be that you could only do that just within the same topic thread, whereas now we've got the ability to say, actually store this and use it anywhere in the chat conversation. So those are two things there. Yay for global variables, I agree.
Enthusiasm there.
Yeah. So yay for both of these things, really. They are absolutely sort of, core things that we've been really looking forward to. So that's something you'll see now, and that just pops up in the variable now. When you add a variable, you get the choice to say, do I want to enable this just for this topic or somewhere else? So that's a really, really awesome new feature that we're seeing there in Power Virtual Agents.
That's some pretty exciting stuff there for PVA, I reckon.
Yep.
So next, let's take a look at what we have with Power BI. So amazing news if you have your data in the Common Data Service and you want to build reports in Power BI. We now have the ability to create Power BI reports using the CDS connector, and it's currently in preview. Using your CDS data in Power BI, it's just as easy as selecting it as your connector and then really typing in your CDS URL to make that connection there. Then you're going to have all your CDS data right there at your fingertips. You can then start to build your reports. And in terms of security, it works because it's running through CDS and it supports single sign-on. All your filtering, trimming, field level security works inside of the report without the need to export it into, like, say, a data warehouse and do all the security trimming on top of it. So that's one of the exciting things that we have there with Power BI. Another thing here is also available now in preview is the ability to use direct query with data flows in Power BI. This means you no longer need to import its data. If you're unfamiliar with it, a data flow is essentially a collection of data that can be used to connect with business data from a range of your sources. You can clean it, you can transform it. As a report designer, direct query will allow you to quickly set up new reports and dashboards against a single source of truth, as well as prevent the creation of multiple copies of the data source inside Power BI. This also means that since you are connecting directly to the data flow, you can avoid things like separate refresh schedules, which ensures that your data is always going to stay synchronized there. And also generally available, we have AI insights in Power Query, which you can use to enrich your data. This gives us capabilities like sentiment analysis, language detection, image tagging, key phrase extraction. These are all part of the collection of pre-trained machine learning models that we can use in our data preparation. So we don't need an Azure Cognitive Services subscription to use this either. These transformations, they can be performed from the Power BI service. So what are some ways that you're able to use this? Well, if we're looking at language detection, this comes handy when you say you might have a column that contains an unknown language. Power BI can recognize it, tell you what it is. When you have unstructured text and big chunks of it, key phrase extraction, this can give you a list of key phrases from that. Score sentiment is another thing you might find useful for, say, something like social media, for example. From your text there, the analysis can determine for you whether or not a comment is, say, negative or positive. And we also have tag images as another AI capability here. Say you upload an image or you have the URL for it, the AI can then tag it to tell you some of the components or what subjects that image contains.
And I'm totally going and playing with that straight away.
Yes, definitely.
Those of you who've seen AI Builder within the platform might recognize some of those things. So we start to see there's a really common theme coming through of leveraging AI in the platform. So what I was talking about right at the start there with Dynamics 365 is around bringing artificial intelligence into the sales experience, the CRM experience. What we're seeing there now, AI coming into the Power BI experience, those models are very much available as well as part of AI Builder. So that ability to sort of do text classification, sentiment analysis within Power Apps and Flows are all there as well. So there's a really big investment in this idea of bringing artificial intelligence tools to citizen developers, so people to be able to make use of those in their apps, in their flows, in their Power BI reports in Dynamics 365 that comes through everywhere in the platform. And I think we're only seeing the beginning of that experience. So super exciting stuff there.
Yeah. All right. And so that was Power BI. And the last one we have here is Power Apps. So what we previously had to do if we wanted to embed a Power BI report in a Power Apps portal, it was not a simple process. We now have a simplified experience of this, which allows us to integrate our Power BI reports and dashboards with portals using the new Power BI component. This makes embedding a Power BI report so much easier. Our data is important, and by simplifying the process of getting Power BI and portals to work together seamlessly, we're able to encourage more people to leverage this feature and showcase your organization data in your portals so other people are able to interact with it. As a component, your reports and dashboards can be added using the Portal Designer experience, just as easy as it is to add something like a form or a list. And in terms of use cases, this is pretty handy, or probably the most important if you're thinking about maybe a B2B type scenario. So say you have a partner portal with a partner organization. Say they might generate opportunities for you. If you wanted to visualize this, you collect the analytics for it, displayed on your portal. This is great and will definitely help if you're doing that and make it so much easier than what it was before. Another idea is for, say, government organizations, for example, applying for funding. That might be another like scenario where this will come pretty handy there. And the last one I have here is in terms of debugging an app, we have a Canvas App Monitor. It's a tool that can help you debug and diagnose your problems with your apps, really so you can build them faster, they can be more reliable. So what we have here is if you have multiple authors, or really what the scenario was before, say you have multiple authors who need to contribute and collaborate. It was previously quite difficult. Say you were doing this over something like a Teams call, you might have like one person instructing the other person what they should do, like click here, click there, no, click here, change this formula. If this sounds familiar to you, then you probably know how stressful and time-consuming that can be. But now we have a new feature called Invite in Monitor, where you can ask your teammates to participate in your monitor session there and to help debug it. So this allows everyone to collaborate and have their own part to do in the debugging mode. You can reproduce the issue in the app, and your teammates can then see the exact same app events on their own screen and in real time as well. This makes it much simpler to work together. Check out different sections of the log, and of course, cut down the time to find the problem. All right, so that was all that we really had here in terms of the new features that we wanted to showcase to you.
So this is our sort of summary of the highlights, really, because we've been through, maybe a dozen or so different things here. So the AI in intelligent selling capabilities available with Dynamics 365, that whole world of extending teams with the Power Platform, the Softomotive acquisition and the direction of robotic process automation and how much more is coming there. Those, in a way, are sort of like three absolutely big headline direction points. Power Virtual Agents, some new absolutely critical features that have been introduced in there. The part about Power BI Direct Query with CDS is super exciting in being able to make that, a much better experience with the rest of the platform. And adding Power BI to portals is something that I've certainly heard a lot of people ask for that, and we've been able to do it in the past, but not as easily as what we're going to be able to do now. So, Roshona, what's your highlight out of all of that stuff?
Definitely got to be the virtual agent stuff. Like, it's so easy. Like, you always think, oh, I really wish I could move this around. Can I move it somewhere else? But now we can finally do that. So I reckon that's actually probably the most exciting, even though it's sounds like a very basic feature. I'm sure it's going to make a lot of our lives easier.
Sometimes those fundamental things, though, are just, we can be excited about those. If anyone's got anything in here they want to call out, in the chat here as their favorite things they've seen or other things they've seen in the last couple of months, then please let us know what you're excited about here. I think for me, the Teams and Power Platform story is just way up there. I was very, very excited to see that announced at Build, and that idea of that single click, add a bot, single click, add an app is just going to open up so many more experiences of saying, well, we all live in teams, we're seeing huge growth with the Power Platform, and being able to just, single click those two things together is awesome. I think, that's number one for me, but the Dynamics 365 experience as well is super exciting. I've worked with Dynamics since before it was that good. If you haven't seen Dynamics recently, certainly it's something worth having a look at. It is nothing like I was doing something last week which reminded me of what the old 2016 interface looks like, and it's absolute chalk and cheese. So especially with these new features being added in, it's certainly not the CRM of old by any stretch. So that's a bit of a longer term journey for me to have seen the evolution of that and where that product's gone. All right, Teams integrate. Oh, look, now here we go. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. You're calling out the Teams integration and the PVA variables.
Nice.
Yeah, PVA variables is awesome. And I think that ability to say use that across the bot, because what Power Virtual Agents is doing is not just questions and answers, but taking in information and allowing you to reuse that somewhere else, to push it out to Power Automate to take action. So the ability to store those variables and reuse them across the bot and reuse them in different ways is actually, it seems like a little thing, but it's actually kind of a big deal. I agree with you there. Excellent. All right, I think we might give you 10 minutes or so back for your lunch hour. Unless anyone's got anything else they'd like to add or any further questions, please, you can welcome to come off mute or pop them in the chat there, and we'll answer them for you. Now, will there be any session in the future to walk through ALM and the COE toolkit? Thursday this week, yes. So I will grab a link to that from our calendar here. We run once a month a session on Power Platform administration and governance. It's usually sort of a 2-hour briefing session. So let me just grab the link for that. We've still got some places available there if you wanted to join us from that. And yes, that covers ALM and the COE toolkit in that session there. And so the next one is this Thursday, the 18th at 9 o'clock. If that time doesn't work for you, we will be getting that running in July as well. We just update that each month with anything new that's come through. So I've just popped the link in the chat there. So yes, very welcome to join us for that this time round, or next month. We run that on a regular cycle every month. And thank you, Daniela, for the thank you. All right, any other questions, comments, thoughts before we go? Power BI aspects are exciting. Dominic, yes, absolutely. Teams and Power BI, yeah. I haven't done as much with Power BI as I've done with the other parts of the platform, but for me, that whole feature about AI in Power BI has got me.
Yeah, got to try it out now.
Have a go at that, yeah. All right.
10 minutes to go.
I think
you guys get an early mark.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us today. We will run these sessions once a month from here, so do keep an eye on our calendar. We'll be doing these updates on a regular basis for you. Hope that's been valuable. Please share that with your colleagues or anyone else you know. We'll make the recording available as well after the session. So thank you very much for joining us today.